Anybody that knows me knows that I play Star Citizen primarily for the flight experience in space as well as on planets with an atmosphere. It's no surprise then that I have high hopes for the Grav-Lev vehicles, and to date I don't feel like CIG has managed to hit the nail on the head. 316 sees a rework of the Grav-Lev system, and having tried it in the PU finally, I can't say I'm impressed. I'll quickly run through my impressions and feedback, starting with what didn't work in 315 and how that has changed, or rather hasn't changed now that 316 has hit the PU. In both 315 and 316, steering is done by yawing. This has always felt really strange to me, since the yaw results in a rolling motion of the vehicle. I'm sad to see that in 316 we still have to yaw to roll the bike, which feels really unintuitive to me. It's kind of like using a steering wheel or rudder pedals to lead a motorcycle. Not great. In both 315 and 316, decoupled mode doesn't work because the speed is for some reason limited to only 20 meters per second. Anybody with a little bit of knowledge on coupled versus decoupled knows how the thrusters behave differently depending on what system you use, and being forced to fly coupled when typically flying decoupled with dual sticks is far from ideal. Whenever I add the tiniest amount of thrust, the bike is jolted forward. I hope CIG can give us decoupled pilots some love. Let's talk then about the reworked changes in 316. The bouncing drives me nuts. While I like the idea of their new double suspension system as explained in the ISC, in reality it feels really strange. You go over bumps and expect to get some air when you go over them, but this new suspension system keeps you pulled down like a magnet, causing this weird up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, unless you go fast enough or over a hill steep enough that sends you over this magical threshold that disconnects the suspension from the terrain, sending you into the air and into the freefall mode. It doesn't feel natural. In ways, the old system felt better as it allowed for a more natural coasting over bumpy terrain, and going over a hill would see you catch air the same way you would on a motorcycle. The behavior feels erratic and you can't easily predict or expect what will happen. One time you'll stay in magnet bounce mode, another time you'll hit the ground, which hasn't been fixed in this version unfortunately, and yet another time you'll gain airtime and disconnect from the ground, sending you into the new freefall mode, which doesn't feel very spectacular or fun either in terms of how you continue to fly forward until you land again. There's only so much attitude you have in the air. Again, you can't roll, and you can pitch, but it doesn't really do anything. You don't have strafe up or strafe down, so you can't really... It's kind of like you're in this mode until you land, and it just doesn't feel very fun. Now, I know this sounds pretty negative, and well, I guess it kind of is. I am sorry. I'm relatively inexperienced still in terms of how CIG development is, and I hope they are listening and gathering feedback with the goal of improving on the system. I have asked some questions on the topic. I haven't really had any answers yet, for example, in terms of how the decoupled mode is going to work in the future, and I haven't really heard them comment on what their plans are for the continuation of developing this system. My big question is this a finished system, or will we see more development in the future? I'm hoping the latter, and I hope they're open to feedback. My 2 cents would be, the bike should roll when I input roll, and that should steer the bike. Yaw should have no effect since we're not driving a car with wheels. Pitch should only work when I'm in the air, that's fine, but don't add pitch automatically, either down when I'm accelerating or up when I'm slowing down. This isn't a helicopter. It looks really weird that you're on this motorcycle thing and it pitches nose down when you're accelerating. It just looks like it's aiming toward the ground, and it's strange. We need an immense boost to lateral strength to avoid the drifting nature of the vehicle. Currently, it is almost impossible to turn at speed, making the entire experience feel like a roller coaster as you drift wide on turns. In terms of the bouncing behavior, well, I almost feel like we should go back to the old system, with the added change that when you do approach a steep hill or fall down after a jump, the system is strong enough to catch you and avoid hitting the ground. Now, I can't imagine they would just revert the entire system. So if you're going to continue using this new and improved double suspension system, find a way to smoothen it out. Don't make it so that when you're going over multiple hills that you go up and down, up and down, up and down as you're kind of glued to the terrain until you go over this magical threshold that sends you flying into the air. You gotta find this balance between smoothing it out and making it fun. Apologies for being such a negative Nancy. I have a huge amount of faith in CIG, and seeing the passion with which they work on their systems and discuss them with the community is absolutely epic. Not something I'm used to in terms of, for example, Elite Dangerous, dare I say. So I really appreciate the fact that they're in our XGR Discord and they're actively talking to us about things like this. I love the ISCs, and I love hearing CIG explain how they're going to develop these things in the future, and I hope that they'll touch a little bit on the Grav-Levs again as well, just to kind of put our minds at ease in terms of where they're going with this. Alright, I'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. I'll see you on the flip side.